Hi, everyone. Welcome to Google Mini PD Session 1. So this is for my teacher friends and classified staff out there that didn't get a chance to attend any of my Google Mini sessions after school. So I thought I would do these short little video tutorials that kind of go over what we talked about in those sessions. So fear not, if you can't attend live on Wednesdays with us once a month, then you can always use these video tutorials as a way to kind of catch up and maybe still get a little bit of knowledge about some Google tools. So our session 1 was all about Google Drive. Okay, so today I'm just going to go over a few of the things that we talked about in Google Drive, kind of some of the must need to knows that are important. So the first must need to know is, how do I get to my Google Drive? Well, there's not one direct answer for that one. So you might possibly, if I'm in my Google Chrome browser, I could get to it a couple different ways. If I'm signed in, and I know I'm signed in because my little emoji or your initial might be there, you can click on the waffle. We call this the little tile of tiles, the waffle. And when I click on that, I'm going to see all my different G Suite apps that are available, and one of them will be Drive. So I could click on Drive and get to Google Drive that way. Another way you could do it is if on your bookmark bar, if your bookmark bar is showing right here, I can click on the apps bar. And when I click on the apps bar, I will find Google Drive there yet again, and I can click to it from that link. I can also go straight up to the top of my my browser. I call this is the Omnibox, and I can actually just type in Google Drive, and you'll see one of those options show up for you, and I can click it. Doesn't matter, you got to find what is the easiest, what works for you. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but this is Google Drive. So as you can see, when Drive first opens up, I see any files or folders that I have already created. I see some of the most recent files that I've worked at or under this quick access bar. And on the left-hand side, I will see my drive, team drive, shared with me, and some of these different features that we will talk about in just a second. So we're going to start at kind of the top and work our way around. The first thing you have choice in is your view. So this is one way. I like to have everything kind of organized up and down, but some people like to have a different view for their Google Drive homepage. Over here in the right-hand corner, we can switch to grid view. So I'm going to click it so you can see what that version looks like. As you can see, as I scroll down a little bit, it changes the view, there it goes, of how my files are organized in Drive. So basically it puts them into little pictures, and they go from left to right instead of just up and down. So if that is your preference, then certainly that is a choice. I happen to like list view, so I'm going to click it again and go back. I like everything going from top to bottom versus left to right. And one of the reasons I prefer this method is because it allows me to use some sort features. I have a lot of folders and a lot of files, and so a lot of times the organization of this helps me. So for example, if I'm looking for a folder that I created, I can sort them alphabetically. So by clicking on the title heading name, I click on it once, and it's going to sort from, give it a second to pop up here. It's going to sort from, there it goes, from A to Z. So A being at the top, and then alphabetically all the way down. Or I can click it again, and it's going to sort in the opposite direction. I can sort by the last date that I modified it. So sometimes I know it's something that I just changed the other day, and I can't remember what folder or where I put it. I can sort by the date that it was last modified, last opened by me, or even modified by me. So I have some nice choices. A lot of times I sort by date with my folders and my files. So that's very handy, and that's something that I can do in list view, and it's an option that I use quite often, which is why I do it. The other great feature in Drive is if I happen to know the name or a part of the name or something in the title of my file and I don't know where it is, I can come up here to this search bar and Drive and search for it. So I know that I'm looking for And you can even search by directly PDF. Like I know it's going to be a PDF, or I know it's a text document, or I know it's a presentation. So I can just search for all presentations. And Google Drive is going to pull up any of the presentations, Google Slides that I have created, so I can search for something that way. I could also search by, this one's kind of cool. I can just start typing in if I know vaguely what the name of it is going to be, like when I was doing some Google slide presentations. If I just start typing the name of something, it'll start giving me any of the slides that I have in my file that have part of that title in there. So it's another way to find something really quick on the fly without having to dig through all your folders to find it. So that's a handy feature of that. Moving on to the left-hand side, we have our new button. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Click on new, and I have the option to create folders. I can upload files. So if you have files that are saved on a flash drive or on your desktop, you can move those into Google Drive. I can upload an entire folder, and I can create new documents from in here. I can new docs, new sheets, new slides, forms, and of course any of the G Suite apps. I can create a new one straight from here. We're not going to get into all of these different options today because those are different Google mini lessons. So we'll be getting to those later on in the year. But this is another place that you can open up a new document and start from scratch. The one we do use most often in Drive is folder. So I am all about folders for organizing my work, organizing all my stuff. I'm not always as good about getting everything into folders, but I do try to stay organized, and I do that by creating a new folder. So I go to new folder, and this little box pops up, and I can title it anything that I obviously want. So this is we're going to call this my Google Mini Sessions, because this is probably where I will start putting all of these links and agendas and tutorials that I use with my Google Mini Sessions in this folder. So after I create that, then I'm going to go back to my Drive. I'm still in search function here, so I'm going to click on Drive to go back to my Drive home, and my new folder will be there. There it is, Google Mini Sessions. And now, as far as putting things into it, it's as simple as dragging. So there's a couple of different ways to add things into a folder. The first way is just to, let's find a document that I don't have in a folder. We'll scroll down to here, all the way down to the bottom where I have just some files. So for example, if I want to put this document into that newly created folder, one way I can do it is if I do a right click on that file, one of the options is move to. And when I move to that, I then see a list of all the different folders that I have, and I can just select the correct folder and click move here. So if I wanted to put it there, I could click move, and then that file would go into that folder. Another option would be over on the left-hand side here, where I see the little tree branch. I can open this up and see a list of all my folders here. And then I can simply drag, I'm going to put it in our Google, find that Google folder I made. These are alphabetical. So I can just drag it directly into the folder that I want. And now my document is in there. So I use that method a lot, but you can always use the right click and move option. And so you could also move documents into team drives. We know at school we use a lot of team drives. These are all different team drives that I'm a part of. And you can drag folders in and out of team drives the exact same way. Just something to remember. When you own the drive, when you own the file and it's in your personal drive, you have the ability to set all the sharing settings, meaning you can decide who can view a file, who can edit a file, who could just comment on a file. But when you move it into a team drive, you give up ownership. So any documents that are in a team drive, any other members of that team have full access to those documents. So keep that in mind. If it's something that you want to share with somebody, but you don't necessarily want to always give up control, or you want them to be able to make their own copies, then you're better off not necessarily putting it into a team drive. or at least making a copy of it before you put it into a team drive, because you do give up ownership rights. And so just be aware of that when you're posting things into team drives. Another feature of Google Drive is obviously shared with me. So we get messages all the time that somebody shared a document with you, they've shared a file, but you don't know where to go to find it. If I go right here to share with me, I'm going to see a copy of every document or every file that somebody has shared with me through Google. The nice thing about this is that it's a quick way to find something, especially when you see you can sort by who it was shared by. So if you know that Mr. Moore sent you a certain file, but you're not sure where it is, you can go to Shared with Me, sort by the Shared by folder, and find it that way. So that's another little function that you can do. You can also take a file that's been shared with you, right click on it, and move that move that where you would like it to go so that you can find it. You can star it so you can make it a little easier. That comes in handy. Sometimes when something is shared with you and you know you're going to access it all the time, it might be easier to either move it into a folder that you're going to access all the time, or we can do what we call add a star. And anytime we add a star, so let's do a file that I actually want to add a star, we'll do this one. So this is a spreadsheet that was shared with me, and I know I'm going to access it a lot. So if I right click on it, I can use where'd it go? On this particular file, I don't have ownership rights. So let's just do the add to star function. So when I do this add to star, it's going to obviously put a little star by it, but it's also going to share that link over here to my starred files. So I'm back over here under Drive. And this is kind of like your favorites bookmark for Google Drive. So any documents that you know you're going to access quickly, you don't necessarily want to or need to go through all the files and folders to get to it all the time. If you star it, then they go into this little starred folder, which is a kind of a quick link, quick way to get to it very fast. You don't have to search through anything. So, and the nice thing about it is that it still stays in its original location. So even though I've started it so I can get to it easily, if I go back to my shared with me, it's still there. It doesn't move the file from the location. It just kind of puts this link to a quick access link to it in the starred folder. So that's a really cool feature that I do enjoy. So those are those two folders. Trash, I think, is self-explanatory. So when you delete a file, and you delete a file by a couple different ways, but we'll talk about that in a second. But when you delete a file, it does go to your trash can, and you get it for like 30 days. So you do have a little bit of recourse if you accidentally delete something and then change your mind. You have about 30 days to get it back out. And you do that by going to your trash folder. You can right click on a file, and it gives you the options to restore it or delete it forever. But it will delete forever on its own after 30 days. So going back up to a file that we might want to delete or even work with, let's look at some files. Wait for mine to come up. Here we go. So if I'm looking at, let's look at some individual files. We'll just choose something that's down here. Google Drive is a little slow today, but I have a lot of files in here. There it goes. Okay, so I'm just going to click on a file so you can look at some of the different options. When I click on it once, you'll notice up here in the top right of my screen, some options come up. The first one is a link, so you don't have to go into the document in order to be able to get your sharing link. If you just click on it in Drive and then come up here and click the paperclip, you're going to see that you have the ability to turn the link sharing on and off. So by default, it's off. But if I turn it on, now I have this link that I can copy and paste and either email that out or share that out to other people so that they can look at this document. Notice by default, it's set to can view. So people can only view it. They can't change it. I can change those settings by clicking on Share Settings. And then I get some more advanced options. So like this particular document is already shared with several people. You can see that it's shared with some administrators. But I can come up here and change I clicked on this little drop down arrow, and I can see all my different options. So right now it's set to only anyone at Oldham County Schools can view it, but I can change that to give people the ability to comment or edit on it. If I hit more, this little more button, you can see I have even more options. So if you're a teacher that is sharing a document or a link to your parents, for example, you're going to want to go into those more settings. Let me show you one more time. I'm going to click on this little arrow, and then I'm going to click on the word more. Now I get to this big link sharing menu. And if you're going to be sharing this to parents outside of Oldham County, they're not in our Oldham County school domain. They don't have a school email address. You're going to have to change the settings to this one right here, on, anyone with the link. I usually don't necessarily put things public out on the web. I don't need, if I'm sending something to parents about what's going on this week at school, I don't need that to be necessarily searchable on the internet. But I do want them to be able to access the document without having to sign into anything. So I'm going to change the settings to on, anyone with the link. And then you can choose save. And then again, copy your link and share it out with anyone that you need to. So, and then hit done. And now I've just changed the share settings on that individual document. Another fun thing you can do, again, click on a document, you can come up here. This is the other way to share it. Notice with Google, there's always more than one way to do it. So I can get to the share settings just by clicking the link button, or I can click on this little person document, and this brings up the box where I can share it with specific people. So I would use the link if I was going to be sharing it out through email to all my parents or to the school community. But if I was just sharing this with individual people, I would do this share link. And then as long as they are somebody that's within most Oldham County schools or Kentucky schools, if you start typing their name, for example, let's say Karen Bebelar. So if I just start typing her name, you'll see her email address pops up, and then I can just click on here for there. If they are a Google Drive member, it has to be a school member, this will work. If you were trying to share with people outside of Oldham County schools, then you're better off using the link method, the one above that I showed you. So that's sharing. The next one is a preview. So if you just can't remember what that document was and you just want to have a quick preview of what it looks like, you can certainly choose that one. And there's that delete button again. So when you're done with the document and you want to delete it, you can certainly do that as well. These more actions just show you even more options that you have. Each document gives you the ability to open with a particular program. There's the move to, again, we already explored that one about how you move documents to in and out of folders. We can make something a favorite. We can rename it. If you just want to view the details about it, you can do that. If you want to duplicate it, make another version of it or make a copy of it, you can do that. And finally, download. So if it's something, a picture or a file or a document that you want to just have a hard copy or download onto your actual desktop, you can do that as well from Google Drive. So those are all options. The last really cool thing I want to show you is people have asked me how I get all these little colors on my folders. If I click on a folder, we'll do this one since it's not colored, that I want to work with, and then right click, you'll see one of the options is change color. And I can choose a different color. I like colors. It helps me kind of coordinate. We'll do that one again. Some of my folders and files, it just makes it a little fun. Something that you can do. Sometimes I like things to be at the top of my ABC order all the time. So one way you can do that is by putting a icon in there, and you do that by renaming it. So if I renamed this one and then I put like a little asterisk or a star in front of it, it kind of like puts a character at the beginning so that when I sort, it'll always be at the top or the bottom. So that's a fun little feature. Not necessary, just a little bit extra. Let's see, we've explored all of those. That's really about all of the great things of Google Drive. This is overall settings for Google Drive. So this is the cogwheel up here. If I click on settings, you can see what things you do have control over. You can have this box will allow you to, if you have Word documents that you are uploading to Google Drive and you want them to automatically go ahead and convert into Google Docs, then you can check this box. Otherwise, when you do that, if you don't, I don't keep that box checked because I like to decide what something does. So if I have a Word document that I've uploaded, we'll take this big universe parent letter. When I try to open a document that is not in Google Doc format, so for example, this is a Microsoft Word document that I have uploaded. So I can preview it in Google Docs, but it doesn't open. It just gives me a preview mode, which sometimes that's great because in preview mode, I could go ahead and just print and I'm good. I don't need to change it. But when I do, if I did want to edit it, I have two choices. I can either come over here and download it. I can download it to my computer and then open it up, and then it will open up in Word if I have Word on my computer. That works on your desktop or on a PC laptop, but that wouldn't work if you were on your Chromebook because Chromebooks don't have Word. Your other option is to click this Open with Google Docs. And what Google Docs will try to do is convert your document into Google Docs format. The nice thing about that is, number one, it doesn't change your existing Word document. So my Google Word the Word document that I have that I started from is still intact. It doesn't change that, so I always have that as a backup. But now I have another version of it, and it's now in Google Docs. So, and usually it does a really good job. Sometimes if you have a Word document that has lots of graphics or maybe lots of unique fonts, especially if it's fonts that you've downloaded and installed into Word, it doesn't always do it perfectly. But I have found that it actually does a really good job of importing your documents in. So if you think you're going to be doing a lot of work on your Chromebook, which many of us do, I would suggest slowly starting to move over some of your Google, Microsoft Word documents into Google. I think in the long run, that is going to be a good choice for you because it's just going to make everything easier to edit and access. So that I'm going back to my Google Drive. That is, so now I have two. So actually now if I look back at my Google Drive, you would see, let's go back to this. It's called Word. You see now I have several versions. So now I have this big universe parent letter version in Google Docs. That's the symbol for Google Docs. And I still have my original Word document format. So, so that I keep that one, going back to my original topic, I have that one set to manual. I don't do that automatically. If I go into settings again, cogwheel and settings, you can see I can check a box that would make that an automatic process. But that's a choice that's up to you. I don't. I like to move things over intentionally when I need them. There's syncing evidence. There's syncing options. This is the density. So this is like, again, you can change the theme or setting of your Google Drive. They all look a little bit different. This is just kind of playing with the background and the theme and your overall appearance, but you can make that look however you want. This turns off the quick access page. We talked about that earlier. So I said when you first open Google Drive, we'll go out of that. It gives you these quick access documents. If you don't like that option, you can go back into your settings and turn that off. So that's what that is. But I like mine, so I'm going to keep it on. And then obviously Google privacy and terms. There's notifications, so you can decide how you want to receive updates about Google Drive. And then finally, you can manage the apps. So these are some of the extra apps that I have access to that I have installed. And these are all things that are kind of like what opens automatically. This is by far a more advanced feature and probably not something that most people will need to change or modify, but if you're ever exploring Google Drive and you want to look at that, feel free to do it. That's pretty much Google Drive in a nutshell. That's definitely everything that we covered in our first mini session. I highly suggest that if there's any of these tips or tricks that you want to work on, use that power of pause where you can rewind this video and go back and look through any of those options. You will also find embedded into this YouTube video at the end, you will see links to handouts and documents that go with this video. So if you are somebody that likes to watch and have written instructions for some of these things, then I've included that for you as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned a little bit more about Google Drive that can help you with your day-to-day maneuverings of things. And as always, if you have any questions or you need any assistance, don't hesitate to ask. Have a great day, guys.